So in flamenco we have lots of different palos, different styles of music and of singing and of dancing, and it's very geographical as well. So I'm going to show you a few examples of mood and of geography and of the styles that we have in flamenco. So for example, one of my favourite styles is called the Soleá, which comes from the word Soleá, which means solitude, loneliness. And originally this comes from a place called Triana, which is now it's a barrio, it's a district, an area of Sevilla. And but originally, of course, when people were persecuted, the gypsies and flamencos and people who didn't conform to society at the time, they fled to this little enclave, if you like, at the time, which was called Triana. Of course, now it's part of Sevilla. But that's really where the origin of some of the flamenco comes from, and this Soleá. So it's a very, very mournful piece. It's one of my favourites. So it's a little bit like the mood is like this. So just a flavour, but it immediately transports me into an emotion of kind of loneliness, mournful and passionate, if you like. But so it's a cante madre. It's, in other words, it's a mother chant. It's one of the origins of flamenco, and a lot of different styles derive from it. They're not only the ones that have a strict rhythm like this one that had 12 beats, but there's also cantes or styles or palos that don't have a structured or even a strict rhythm at all. For example, there's Cante de las Minas, which is the chants of the mines of southeast Andalusia, and they have a cante called, or a style called taranta. And this taranta is very Moorish inspired just by the first chord even. And so I'll play a little bit to see. You can imagine traditionally, of course, Spain is not like this now, but traditionally they would pick in the mine and they would sing their sorrows, and it was based on this harmony. So again, that's a very dramatic kind of deep chanting mood, which I love. And then you get really light-hearted things, for example, like the Alegría. And again, this is from a different part of Andalusia, a different part of Spain. The Alegrías de Cádia, which is from Cadiz, as the name says. And it's much more light-hearted, much more... dancey, much much more fun in the sense if you're in a light-hearted mood and you want to have a fiesta. So it's that kind of mood. It's also a dance form. And then we have things like we go to Huelva, which is just down the road, and you have Fandango de Huelva, which is this kind of thing. Again, it's more of a dance form, and you can actually do a fandango libre, which means a fandango, a free fandango, if you like, where actually you have a singer and he or she sings without a structured rhythm, and then you're accompanying with these chords. There's also, of course, the bulería, which is now the one that all guitarists really want to play. Because it's buleria comes from the word, I think, boudelar, which means to fool, because the rhythm is quite complicated, it's quite syncopated, and it's great fun, and guitarists love it because it's such a challenge. It's like, I call it the cliffhanger, because if you miss a beat or you miss a note or whatever, and it's quite fast, then you're out, and of course you can't be out. And it's the buleria, which is this kind of thing. So it's instant kind of rhythmic improvisation, instant wow, it's an instant push, if you like, an instant punch, which I love too. So there are all sorts of different moods and different styles that represent different towns and sometimes villages, and sometimes even the villages within the area of that village that have a different style from one side of the village to the other side of the village. It's that pure if you take it right down to the essence. These days, of course, there are all sorts of different styles that you can put all sorts of new harmony into, like rumbas. So you've got much more flexibility to be able to put in a nice kind of nice open chords. But it's much more. It gives you more room for interpretation, perhaps. But you always have to adhere and keep to the structure of the beats, and that for me is the challenge, is that you are given, for example, a structure of 12 beats, and you have to find a way of being inventive, you have to find a way of being creative, of course, in the same way, but also to find a way to keep your interest going in composition and harmony and everything else within those 12 beats. And that's the exciting part for me, is having that structure that you're trying to get out of all the time in a way, but you have to adhere to. So for me, that's the key to keep my brain going, is to stay within that and try and find a way forward and find a new composition and new rhythm, perhaps. So that for me is my little introduction of flamenco styles.